Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Geelang Wasp V2 Whoop. Doesn't look much like a whoop, does it? It comes in this sealed carry case. So this is everything that you get in the package. Oh, pretty minimalistic for Geelang this time. So we've got some stuff up there. So this is a 65mm quadcopter. Maybe that's why they are calling it a whoop, but I guess it's more of a toothpick sort of twig. Look how thin those arms are. You really can't see that on the camera, but in person those are so thin. But the carbon is cut sort of lengthways so that it is pretty sturdy actually. So that's going to be what it looks like. Well, it looks fairly thick, that plate actually. Maybe even 3mm thick. Or, you know, 2.5mm, something like that. I'm quite impressed with that actually. So this is designed, it says, to take a 1 to 2S battery. It's probably going to be best on 2S, I would say. We've got these little tiny 802 motors. I think they are 14,000 kV. It's running a bi-blade 65mm gem fan prop. And see if we get a spare set of those. Yeah, we've got that there. And we've also got an Insta 360 Go mount. This thing is going to be pretty sluggish with an Insta 360 Go on there, but maybe you can get some of that amateur City Whoop style stabilized footage with it. Got some interesting stuff in this package. Let's see what we've got. So got a screwdriver, some cable ties, and some foam. I guess that is for, well, I don't know what that's for. Yeah, that's going to be for your battery underneath there. And we've got a battery strap, but there's just a band on here. And yeah, that's about it. The manual here just really tells you about the connections to the flight controller. Looks like it's an all-in-one board, so F4 flight controller. We have got 5A BL Heli S ESCs with a 7A burst. You can see all of the receivers available here. So we've got FlySky, DSMX, Crossfire, and this one it says is the XM Plus. So seeing as it doesn't come with a battery, I'm going to be using this 450mAh 2S GMB battery. Let's see how much this guy weighs. Okay, so without a battery we are looking at 37.3 grams, and then with this battery we are looking at 66 grams. The camera is Geelang's own GL950 Pro. We've got a cover on it there, and it's in TPU again. Is it loose? A little bit loose. You see, they are screwing into TPU, so that's always going to move around a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan of this camera. It was just okay. It looks like the VTX is the same 16x16 200mW VTX that I have seen on a previous product. We have got a linear antenna. I quite like how that's mounted actually. That's pretty nice. Got some LEDs on the side. I'm not sure that is needed. We could have lost a bit of weight there. This canopy, yeah, it's pretty sturdy. Have we got a screw on all of the corners? Yeah, it looks like it actually, so fingers crossed the vibration won't be too bad. I'll have to see. And I do actually really like this. We have got some antenna mounts. I really dislike it when you have these bind and fly quadcopters and they just leave the antennas to get caught up in the prop. So good job there. XT30 on the connector, and we also have a capacitor there for noise as well. The motors are all on little JST connectors. So things I'm looking out for with this one is to see if we get any vibrations, because bi-blades usually cause more vibrations than a tri-blade, and it can sometimes upset the tuning as well. And also looking out for whether these little tiny motors can spin up the propellers quick enough, because we're not going to have much torque with that, and also the same for slowing them down as well. So that could affect the power of the thing, and also how nice it is to control and fly in acro. I'm just trying to figure out how to bind the receiver, and it's hidden underneath this plate, which is nice, but I can't get to the bind button. Now, we've got this little plate here, which is removable. However, this screw here goes all the way through, and there's a nut at the top, so we don't really want to take that off. And the same with this back one as well. And I've also noticed that this back one doesn't actually have a nut on the top of the VTX. There's a nut there on the top of the flight controller, so that's fine, but it does mean that the VTX and the back of the canopy can move up and down, so there's potential for vibrations there. I think that it is actually going to have to come off, because I don't see any other way to reach the bind button. So I think what I'm going to do is just take this back one out and try and slide it to the side maybe, because you don't really want to be undoing these screws, especially with a bind and fly. You see, the tension on the flight controller is important when you build a quadcopter, and if we are changing that just to bind to it, then it could potentially not fly as it's supposed to, because we didn't tighten this up as much as it should have been, or we left it too loose or something like that. The question is that nut gonna stay in place? Looks like it's lifting up. Maybe the VTX will keep it in place. It looks like the nut has stayed in place, and then this can move to the side. Yeah, the bind button's there, and it just doesn't quite line up with this hole here. It could have done with that hole being further up. Maybe that hole suits another one of the receivers that you can buy. But that's the only way I can see getting to the bind button on this XM Plus. Now, I've bound everything up to my Radio Master transmitter and put the screw back in this back one here, and it did line up with the nut, no problem. It stayed in place. However, this nut here is not locking, and neither is this one, so they actually sit pretty loose, whereas these two on the side here, they are locked in place. So I've made these ones pretty loose so that, you know, me tightening this up too much doesn't interfere with the soft mounting of the flight controller. But that's something to watch out for with this, because you are going to have to tamper with that to get this plate out. And you know, if you haven't seen this video, like me, you will start to take this one out at the same time, which loosens that one. So I can sort of see the grommet here and how sort of crushed it is, and I've tried to match that up, but it's basically pretty loose, so I'm going to go with that. Alrighty, let's take a look at the Betaflight setup. It's come flash with version 4.2.0, so fairly recent. If we check out the ports tab, we don't have any spare UARTs. We've got the UART2 taken up by the XM Plus receiver, and the UART1 for the VTX tramp protocol, so that we can change the power of the VTX and also the channel. Let's go into the configuration. We've got props in, so need to remember that if I need to replace a prop. D-Shot 300 and motor stop is on. I've seen this with other geelang models, so it's my preference to have this off and air mode on. I'm just going to leave it like that, and we can check in the modes tab to see if they've got air mode. Yes, they have. They've got air mode on a separate function. So I prefer not to have that, but yeah, that's fine to have it like that, I suppose. So if we go into the configuration, I'm going to turn motor stop off. Let's see, we don't have any board alignment changes. We've got 8K, 4K for the gyro update frequency and the PID loop frequency. That's a little bit high actually for JESC, so we have got that on here. And you can see the CPU loads there, 18%, not too bad I guess. We'll see how it flies. We've got 180 degrees on the arming, so that's usually set to 25. I like 180 degrees. It means that if you get stuck in a tree, you can arm the quadcopter at whatever angle and, you know, attempt to shake it out. That's a good thing. We've got the personalization for the on-screen display, and it's set up here for serial-based receiver and S-Bus, so that's all correct. And we have got LED strips, so yeah, for the LEDs, and we've got a dynamic filter and OSD and air mode. I would also turn on RX loss and RX set. This just looks like a copy of a previous geelang model, because that one had a physical beeper, so it didn't need these, but this one doesn't have a physical beeper, so it needs those. So it looks like a copy and paste job, which that's never a good thing really. But yep, so I'm gonna save and reboot that one. Okay, let's check out the power and battery. That's an interesting number, so I'm going to change that to 3 volts there and 3 volts there, just so we don't get any warnings if we get loads of battery sag, which is unknown at this point. So let's go into the PID tuning here, profile 1, that just looks like stock. So any of these changed? Doesn't bode well, does it? Looks like all of that is stock. Oh, I need to change the channel map in a second. We'll do that. So rates, they have messed with the rates though. That is quite twitchy actually, that is. So what else have we got here? Yeah, pretty twitchy that is. Even for me these days, I would go 0.75, 0.75, and then I'm just going to stick my own rates in here, because otherwise, you know, it might not show the model off in its best light. I know you're supposed to, you know, fly them as they are, and I don't like this either. So 1 there, 0.75 and 16 there. Oh, disappeared. Oh, there we go. It's come back. Do you have any throttle limit? No throttle limit or anything like that. So, yeah, we'll have to see how that behaves. So this is spinning here because my radio master is bound to it, you know, to that bottom cap off there, and my channel map is TAER, that's throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does look like we've got the RSSI feeding on the aux 4, so that's actually really good. I like that. So if I save that, this thing should stop. You see we've got a little bit of deviation here, and I usually like to put some deadband in there, and then that should just stop that from moving around. Yeah, that's all fine. So let's go to the modes tab. I've got arming on aux 1, which is correct, and then aux 2, I do have my modes on that, but I want it to go angle first and not acro. So I think that would have gone something like acro and no air mode, which is, that's bad, you don't want that, and then angle mode, and then acro and air mode. That's how they've had it set up. But if you had tried to do acro in this position without air mode and you went to the bottom of the throttle, then the motors would stop. That's what motor stop is when it's on, and it would just fall out the sky. You don't want that. Sometimes good for a beginner, but not in acro mode. For angle mode, sure, because, you know, if you crash and, you know, you haven't disarmed, then the motors will stop. It's a good thing for the ESCs. It's a bad thing for, you know, trying to fly acro. FPV angle mix. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? So FPV angle mix, I believe, changes the way the quadcopter flies depending on, hang on a sec, let's just save that, depending on what you put in the camera angle. So with a quadcopter, as we up the camera angle, it changes the way the quadcopter behaves on the yaw and the roll. And I believe that FPV angle mix corrects for that. Now, is that a good thing as a beginner, or in fact for any pilot? In my opinion, no. I mean, it's interesting, but how do you know that you've got 5 degrees, especially on a quadcopter this small? No, 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 get rid of that. Flip over after crash, going to get rid of, because if we land in grass and this motor gets caught up in the grass whilst trying to flip over, we've got this tiny ESC board, it's going to burn up if we're not careful. Just not worth it, in my opinion. Get rid of that as well. So let's take a look at the on-screen display. Whoa, we've got a busy on-screen display here. The thing I will get rid of is this thing here, which is the crosshairs. I'll get rid of that. Set to auto there, but that very much looks like an NTSC camera setup. However, I do think this is a PAL camera. We'll have to see when I'm flying. Basically, if I've got all of this space in my on-screen display, then it's a PAL camera, and if this is at the top and this is the bottom, it's an NTSC camera. So let's see, battery voltage I want, but I don't want average battery voltage. And again, we've got on time. I think this is a little bit of a crafty thing, you know. It's just the cynical, you know, feelings I have when it comes to these quadcopters. But on time is how long the quadcopter has been on since you plugged it in. It is not flight time, but you know, if you didn't change this and you landed and saw 7 minutes, you go, oh, I had a 7-minute flight time. Now it's actually, no, it was a 2-minute flight time or 3-minute flight time. That is timer 1 and timer 2 we want to turn on. So there you go. I'm gonna just stick that over here somewhere. I think it was a little bit higher than that. What else have we got? RSSI value is down there. I don't mind throttle position, actually good for a review. I don't like warnings, so we can turn that off there. And that's not in the center, is it? Just, you know, a little bit of OCD there, just getting that in the center. Yeah, so that's how I'd have it. We've got the VTX channel and power. That's always a good thing to have, so let's save that. Let's go into the VTX video transmitter. So this is a 200 milliwatt VTX, but they haven't accounted for that in the power level. So usually it's the case that when you get to 200, you're at 200, and then the rest is 200. So, you know, if you want it to 200 for sure, then set it to 600, I guess. But it would have been nice if they just put that in there. It needs a beeper adding in here as well, so let's stick that on the aux 3. The auxiliary channel is actually wrong as well, so aux 12, it should be auxiliary 4. But I can forgive them for that, you know, having so many receivers, etc. Okie dokie, picking a pokey. Let's go for a line of sight flight with this guy. Oh, it's pretty calm today so far. That battery not really hanging very nicely. I didn't put the foam on. I can see that screw. Oh my goodness, that screw. That's gonna come off. It is loosening itself at the front. I think we're gonna lose that screw. Okay, let's see how much power it's got. Gone into acro mode. Oh, that ain't bad. That is not bad. That ain't bad at all for a little toothpicky thing. Not a Whoop. See those LEDs very bright on this gloomy day. Is the screw still there? Oh, it's still there. It's just sort of spinning. Hopefully it's spinning in the right direction. Yeah, not very loud at all. Got that slight buzz that you get from the bi-blades, but barely hear it at all. Yeah, slight vibration I can hear through the frame to see how that manifests itself when flying FPV. But I'm not hearing or feeling any oscillations with the line of sight. I really like how much power it's got actually. It's very strange seeing it sort of do a roll because all I can see is the battery, really. It looks too big for the model, doesn't it? Would be interesting to see how this thing performs on a 1S, probably underpowered maybe. Say this is pretty nice, you know, pretty nice. If not just for line of sight, you know. Shame it doesn't come with a battery. Battery's not the easiest things to get hold of in the UK. I don't know what the rest of the world is like. Yeah, it's a little tricky on the low down stuff. But yeah, it's nice, you know, it's good for a little bit of a mess around. There's a little bit of a delay on the throttle. I guess that is those little tiny motors, you know, trying to spool up. They don't have the torque of, you know, wider and taller stator motors. Well, I suppose at 802, the 2 is 2 millimeters, so it's the width really than the height. I'm having a lot of fun with this, I have to say. Oh, I do like my line of sight flying though. Tricky to keep the orientation of it with it being so small, and then, you know, it's just a twig. Remember those, the twigs? People named these the twigs, some of them, beta FPV, because I said toothpick makes no sense whatsoever. But anyway. Yeah, it's just another twig in those twigs. So where's it hovering at? It's hovering at about, yeah, it's quite nice, under 50%, maybe 40%, something like that. It's very quiet, which is important to a lot of people, so it's worth stressing that. Trying to do some power loops with the thing, but difficult to know when it's at the top of the loop because it's so blimmin' tiny. And then I'm having to almost flip it round quickly and sort of guess. All right, yeah, I like it, line of sight. So I have the answer to the question that you all want to know, and that is, did that not survive? And the answer is yes, it did, but I do not have high hopes for its future. Oh, look how dull this camera is, man. That is really dull. It's so dark. Got the brightness up full on my HDO2s. Just about see where I'm going. A little bit of noise filtering through from the electrical system. Oh, bit of a wobble on the inverter. Tell you what though, other than that, it feels mega smooth. It feels really smooth. Really snappy, you know, if you're smooth with it. Yeah, I like that. Again, you know, this VTX, so you can do a nice backflip and front flip if you don't go crazy on the sticks, but it's when you start doing, like, you know, the sharp maneuvers, that's where it's, you know, we're getting bounced back. That might be just the weight of that big battery underneath. It is stock PIDs as well. But I tell you what, yeah, it flies really nice, this. I like it. So you can see the power of the VTX. It's gone up to 200 when I armed it. I'm not sure if it is outputting 200, you know. I've got my Bandicoot antenna on here, so it's a linear antenna. And also the periscope antenna from Menace. And just like the other geelang model that I reviewed, you know, a week ago or so, just so much breakup. See, I can easily get, you know, to where those trees are, which is about 100 meters or so, 120 meters, sorry, to those trees, and there's a lot of breakup there. But you know what, a model like this, you don't really want to go much further than that. Look at my throttle percentage there, 20% on the throttle. Is that accurate? Let's go 100. Yeah, so I was wrong there. It's like, oh, you know, very low for a hover. Let's see what the voltage is like on the throttle. Not too bad, you know, not too bad. So we've got the efficiency of that bi-blade. We're at 7.2 volts. We really want to be landing at around about 6.6, I'm going to say. It's difficult to tell with these XT30 connectors because they allow for more current. So, you know, they fall out of the sky at different times. Sometimes they just drop, you know, but for now, no brownouts. Really, really quiet. Can't hear it at all, pretty much. And it's a really calm day, so bear that in mind. It's not going to fly, you know, this smooth on a you know, on a windy day. So really a fair weather model. Yeah, the camera's not that great. It's really wide angle, but it reminds me of the old all-in-one cameras, you know. It's not like the new breed of higher quality CMOS cameras. I like it though, I do like it. Yeah, the wide angle camera is so wide, it's sort of hard to know, you know. I've got a, you know, spotter in the field, and it's, you know, indicated there's a person over there, which I can see, but it's like, yeah, I need to be careful because it's such a wide field of view. I mean, this thing weighs nothing, but it's still, you know, I want to make sure that we are being safe here. Yeah, a little bit of a prop wash oscillation. Yeah, nice inverted yaw spin. I mean, is it worth $100? You'll have to decide that. But yeah, I can see me flying this again. Especially here, you know, we've got so many people walking around now that this is a lockdown COVID exercise park. I'm quite lucky at the moment, but I have waited about 20 minutes for people to disappear, and we still have people just walking around in circles, but I'm flying around in circles, so what can I say? Oh, the rubber band that's holding the battery, and that looks like it's already stretching and perishing, so that's something to watch out for. You know, it's on the second flight and it's perishing already. Yeah, not too much of a fan of that, but that's 5 minutes now on this battery. Maybe it can have a smaller battery and have a little bit more power, you know. I'm expecting it to drop out of the sky at some point. As for the Insta360 Go, I'm not sure this is the model you want to buy for that. But then again, you know, I've only had one success with the Insta360 Go, and that was on the Cine Pro 4K, and I really had to mess around with the mounts. I don't think I'm going to be getting the Insta360 Go 2 or whatever it's going to be called, because I missed a couple of their deadlines for products when I was sick. I'm so sorry, but I love what Insta360 does. So I'll be sitting watching with everyone else, but it really feels like I'm losing the power now. But yeah, 6 minute flight time. It's not too bad that. I was giving it the beans as well, but yeah, you see, that's dangerously low now. But it's not browning out or anything, so yeah, it's probably going to in a second though. Let's bring it in for a landing. You know, it takes a lot to impress me these days, and I would say that the performance of this quad is satisfactory. I wish there was less noise on the video feed, but I thought, well, let's get the Insta360 Go recording, you know, because if a model deserves it, then I will give it extra time, and I could definitely see me flying this quad just for fun, you know. It's just so easy. So let's see how it flies with the Insta360 Go on there, and you'll have to decide whether it's a model for you and your Insta360 Go. Imagine a lot of you are waiting for the V2 version anyways, so it probably need a different mount, usually bigger in size, aren't they? Oh, what happened there? Well, that was unusual. Just a random failsafe. I don't know what caused that. It does sometimes happen on this field. It's a genuine XM Plus, this. So I can only put that down to it being either random or a brownout. But let's see if it carries on doing it. I'd say that was a failsafe if I've ever seen one. But you know, there's no hiding things on here. We get a failsafe, we're gonna put it up on the YouTube. Yeah, it's you can definitely feel the weight of the Insta360 Go. And as I was saying before, it failsafe, you'll have to decide whether, you know, it's good enough footage for you. One thing that's really difficult with these Insta360 cameras is making sure that you don't get giallo. They're really susceptible to giallo compared to the naked GoPros.
and really that's the only reason I think why I would go for a naked GoPro over something like this. That, and you know, only doing 30 frames per second. But the new one I hear is going to do 50 frames per second and 1440p. That's much better, but needs to be better at dealing with jallow and vibrations through the gyro, because you know, it's fine if you're vlogging or whatever, but you know, you haven't got 4 angry wasps in this case, you know, trying to shake the thing to death. So I think it's behaving okay now. Let's see what the RSSI is saying. You guys have probably looked back at that and say, yeah, there's something wrong with the RSSI or something. Just worried like maybe the receiver had browned out. That's all I can think of. But behaving now. Let's give it full throttle. It's not browning out. Oh, yeah, was that? Nah, it was just... That was just the weight of the whole thing, I guess. Yeah, I have to remember we've got the Insta360 Go camera up the top there. So yeah, not so great on the inverted, because we've got that huge pendulum effect. Actually, it connects quite nicely. It just, you know, that 3D printed mount, it plugs into the top and it sort of stays in place, but you need a cable tie, you know, just to make sure it's not going to fall out, and it stops it wobbling a bit as well, the cable tie. It's probably going to look really dull, the Insta360 Go. It doesn't do that great in low light, and yeah, the light is pretty low here today. But let me know what you think. Links in the below if you wish to buy one, and comment in the below if you would buy one. You know, I have to say, like I say, it takes a lot to impress me these days, and it's not impressed me. I wouldn't say, oh, it's the best quadcopter in the world, but I'm having fun with it, you know. And honestly, I haven't had that recently. There's been a lot of duffs from Geelang as well, you know. So either they got lucky with this particular one, or I don't know. It's just, I like it. I do like it. So yeah, especially if that Insta360 footage comes out, there's a nice platform for it, but I think it's going to be a little bit jelly, a little bit wobbly, especially with the bi-blades. Yeah, it might be interesting trying it with tri-blades, but you wouldn't get that long flight time. In fact, might have found that the Insta360 has ran out of battery. But yeah, anyways, that is my review of the Geelang Wasp. As I say, links in the video description if you wish to get one, as well as a pinned comment. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.